So, good, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Enter the Room. And we have a special guest today that I'm very excited about to have in the room today. And I've been hearing a lot about her. I started following her maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago on Instagram. And that is the lovely, dynamic, sensational, phenomenal choreographer, dancer, producer, designer, Miss Marcella Lewis. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today and to share the space as we listen to Marcella's journey into the world of dance and how she got started. And what I do know, what I read about her is that she's a native of Los Angeles, Southern California. And she started off her training with Lula Washington Dance Theater, right? And that's located here in Los Angeles. And from there on, she went to pursue her Bachelor's of Fine Arts at the Purchase Conservatory Dance Theater, right? Am I okay? And then from there, she eventually started working with A.I.M, Cal Abrams dance company as a liaison soloist, and with the company. I'm going to let her tell her story, but she has an extensive, fabulous background in training and performance and working with some of the best. And so I just want you all to sit back, enjoy, listen to Marcella tell her story. And there's going to be a point in the conversation where I open up. If you have questions for her, you're more than welcome to come in if she's have the time to answer some of your questions. And with that, I'm turning it over to her. So, Marcella, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. So, how I come to know about Marcella is because I was in the writers group, the Communities Writers Group of Los Angeles. And I know of her by way of her beautiful mother, talented mother as well, Valerie Gilkey. And Valerie wrote this story, and her story was one of the ones that moved me so much. When your mother told a story about when you were young and how she was just having her own physical health challenges and getting you to school and to training, and that, but this your spirit and how you was just a very present child from listening to the story, and how you just developed this love of dance. And I'm telling you, that story was so powerful to me. I think I even cried, because I even wrote, I was like, her story, you guys' story is one of my favorite stories in the book. So with that, how did you know you had a love for dance at such an early age? Now, I know a lot of kids like to dance, right? But you made up your mind that you wanted to be a dancer. How did you know?
Oh, wow. So I feel like when I felt something, I would say instantly, and I think it's just because there was something very innate for me with dance. There, and I think, we all have that thing that just feels like it's blood. Like God really gave us this gift, and purpose. And so I do feel like, at a very young age, I understood dance. And so it was just one of those things that I immediately got. And I progressed really fast at a really young age. There was a point where I was definitely, I was dancing with the older students at a very young age, just because everything was just, I understood it. And
it was clicking.
It was clicking. And I really do feel like, you know, a lot of it also has to do with Lula Washington Dance Theater. You know, I always say that Lula Washington Dance Theater really cultivated my dance spirit. Like that is the soil that I was planted in, and my roots are really deep in that soil. And Lula really taught me the joy of dance. Really taught me beyond the technique of dance. And a lot of people come from schools that really just like that are teaching you perfect, trying to get perfect technique, and it's all about that. And
right.
And then sometimes, and a lot of schools as well, and institutions and companies, they'll really emphasize and put on a pedestal ballet over all forms of dance. And, you know, I think, and that's not how Lula was. You know, Afro was just as important. Hip hop was just as important. Tap, everything was, you know, ballet is not put on this pedestal. And so I got this diverse understanding of dance. And I also, I was able to connect to all of that. And I always say, you know, I knew what the 7 principles of Kwanzaa was before I knew the Nutcracker. You know, at the Kwanzaa versus, you know, the Nutcracker, you know, which is just very, it's ballet that we do. And it's, you know, it has a lot of, you know, problematic sort of political things that are integrated into it. But, you know, I got to celebrate Kwanzaa. I got to celebrate my history and ancestral history every year. So it's just, it was a different type of way to grow up and dance as a Black.
So before you had gotten into describing the forms of dance that you all practice or perform and that was taught, that was where I was going to say, you know, the technique, she didn't just focus on traditional, I guess, technique in the sense of what European society says. She tapped into the roots, our roots, and you felt very comfortable in that environment. And I understand what you, because as a child, I had taken ballet classes and I was the only Black in my class, you know. And so I know that feeling of when you know, my first instructor, she was saying, she was warm, you know, she was like, but that second instructor, you know, going to the next level, it wasn't that, you didn't feel as welcome, let me just put it that way. So it was good that you had Lula to lay a foundation to where you could be yourself, because like you said, it's good to learn all aspects of dance, but she welcomed our heritage. And so from there, wow.
Yeah. And I carry that with me throughout all of my career. It was really important for me. And I, you know, especially when you're going out into the dance world and they'll cut you after ballet. That ballet is the first thing that they'll audition you with, and they'll cut you after that without seeing you do any other form of technique, style, anything. Yes, especially that's very much integrated into the dance world. Yes. And you know, and I just noticed like companies, schools, institutions have lost out on some incredible dancers because of that. They have lost out.
And you know, do you think that's more so of an American thing? And the reason why I say that is because I see all these kids on Instagram, on videos of other cultures. Japan is one, or Korea. They love the hip hop. I mean, they're infused. The whole thing of hip hop, they're taking it on, you know, from dance to hair to look. So is that primarily more so in America, or is it in Europe that they only focus first the ballet and not just like modern? I mean, well, you know, what about modern dance?
Yeah.
Or modern jazz?
And, you know, I feel like I know most about America. I would say it's infused everywhere though, because just the European standard is very much infused in a lot of things. But I know most about what goes on here in America. And yeah, like this, the normal order would go ballet and then a modern class, like, but you usually get cut after ballet if you can't do that. So you won't even have a chance to get to see the person in modern or see them in their own element or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's deeply, deeply integrated. I think it's changing. I feel like it's changing, but because I have such strong convictions with all that I offer, I have always, I don't know, I've always been able to sort of maneuver through a lot of obstacles. And I think, you know, there was even a point where I realized, oh, wow, I'm going to really need to hone in more on ballet just to get past this first round. Like I'm going to, yeah, I think there was yeah. So I started going to like summer dance intensives just to get really, just to at least get to this point of making sure they can see me beyond that.
Right.
And then, you know, a lot of times it was, and I remember even thinking about situations where I possibly wasn't going to pass the ballet portion. And then I remember somebody, like an auditioner, I was like a lot younger, but they were like, I just pushed just to see you in the next round. They didn't really want to let you push. And then they saw me in the next round. They saw me in the modern contemporary, and they were all, I immediately got in. Like it was just, you know, it was one of those things where like, we're so glad we let you go past the ballet.
Yeah, like, because they would have missed out.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things. I'm like, you guys really, like, it was just not, it's just not smart. But I think it's just something that, it's just a way to keep this hierarchy of ballet being superior to other techniques, and it's just not.
It's a form of, I'll say it, racism. You know, I mean, basically, that's what it is. I mean, because if you, first of all, if you've been trained, right, in modern, I went to a liberal arts school, and I remember we would go see Bill T. Jones, and I in fact, that blew me away after seeing him, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And that was one of the best performances. And then, of course, you know, you go see A.I.M and Emile. I've seen Lula Washington dancers up at the Wallace Theater, and so, and those are always exciting. Of course, I've been to the Nutcracker and all that. I thank the Most High for, you know, Lula and for Debbie Allen, because you know they know how to mix it up. But beyond that, that's just very disheartening to hear, because think about all the young ladies who, they may not want to do that ballet. I get it. It could be a standard in terms of learn. I think it's good to learn. Just like if you're a musician, yeah, you should learn how to read music.
Yeah.
But to just think that you be totally excluded from a dance company because, you know, don't know how, or maybe not as proficient in ballet, but you could be fabulous in everything else. That is amazing. So how old were you when you first started?
I was in my first dance class at 3.
At 3?
Of course, we're all just running around in circles in the studio. Like, you know, like it was,
right.
But my first time being in a dance class was 3 years old. I was born into this.
Yeah, you were. And when you were starting out, what was like some of the major challenges, or that you found the most challenging when you were younger versus like now being an adult, a woman? what are some of the challenges you find, you know?
Well, I would say growing up, I feel like I had a lot of challenges with
Mm-hmm.
being the youngest amongst the older group.
Okay.
So for me, that was really challenging. And I will also say that, you know, what's interesting is that going back to my mom, like how you introduced her, but she really, she was able to hide a lot of her pain. And, you know, it's not until I got older that I was able to understand just how much she really hid and sacrificed in order to make sure I was at my dance classes, at my performances, in order to, she just knew how to maneuver to make sure I was able to do all the things I was able to do. And
yes, she
yeah,
did.
and so I was able to, I just was able to do a lot, and I really owe a lot to her for that, for this, my ability to just take a smooth path and dance. And I will say part of, because it's interesting, because when you say challenge, I also think about the challenge was mostly put on my mom. And that's what I mean. Like of course I had small challenges. And I think the challenges were mostly when it came to maneuvering around other dancers. And and I think also going back to the ballet thing, and I'm not saying awful at ballet. That was not the case. It just, to me, it was thing in the world, but it was just that, you know, but maneuvering around that thing. And then, but my mom really took on I feel like a lot of the stuff to make sure I had a smooth path and dance, but our dance literally opened doors for us, for both of us. And I mean that in a way that is, if it wasn't for dance, there's just certain schools, events, projects that both me and my mom would have never been in if it wasn't for dance literally opening that up. Like being able to go to like this beautiful luncheon dinner with oh my goodness, I'm blanking on her name right now. It's okay. But going to these certain events, if it wasn't for dance, it would have been a lot harder to get through that door. But also, even with finding, you know, I, you know, God gave me enough talent to give me scholarships, basically. Dance gave me scholarships to schools, you know, and things like that. So it really, it sort of, I always say like dance guided me, like literally.
Would because I know you were a recipient for the Princess Grace Award. What can you tell us, what is the Princess Grace Award exactly?
Yeah.
And what did it feel like when you first got it and all that?
Yeah. You know, it's a really incredible honor. You know, they really support you, and you go through a process. You have to get nominated, and you go through a process of showing your versatility. You also have, you know, a writing portion and do all these different things. But, you know, they really honor artists who are up and coming, who have had a certain history of dance, who they feel is going to impact dance, but also has impacted dance in a really major way. So and then, so when you get awarded, you are supported by this organization for the rest of your life. And when I say support, you know, financially, just they'll with community, with, you know, advertising and helping you in connections. So, you know, to do a project, if I need if I want to take class or learn something new about the artistic field, the organization will support me in doing that. So for the rest of my life, I have this incredible organization filled with incredible artists that I have these links to.
Right. Connections
throughout artistic career.
Right, and it's a network, a built-in. Once you receive the award, it's a built-in network.
Yes.
So if you wanted to produce a show, you know, you have that support, and with that, I want to kind of like circle back, because going back to the ballet, you also had the opportunity to work with Miss Misty Copeland.
I
Correct?
did. Yes, I did.
What was that experience like? And that happened right in the height when she became the lead dancer of what, New York City Ballet, am I right?
Yeah, I think she was principal for a while.
Yeah, right. And so you can, I mean, right around that whole, which I thought was so cool, because I was like, oh wow, she's working with Misty. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool because you know, Kyle, who I danced for a few years, 4 years with A.I.M by Kyle Abraham, and you know, he really trusted me to work with and support you know, his creative process, and to be in rehearsal rooms with different companies, you know, like Alvin Ailey and Misty Copeland, and whatever he was creating, he really trusted me to be in the room and to help in that creative space.
And that was an honor. Yeah.
So that's amazing. And I think, you know, for me, it was really incredible to be able to, I don't know, it feels like it all connects, because it was really nice for me to see this ballet dancer and me trying to communicate other type of movement to her. You know, the process of that it was such a huge learning lesson for me, because I thought the process was I really had to break things down in a specific way and really understand her body and also understand my body and be able to, you know, it's like that communication, because you know, the physical communication, but the verbal communication, like, how do I get this across so that her body, and you know, she's trained for years in, you know, ballet, and so she has you know, this is very integrated inside of her. So how do I break that down a little bit? Like, how do I knock something out, pull something out, you know, dig something in, like all these different things. So I feel like it was just a really huge learning lesson and a challenge in the best way possible. And so I just felt really honored that Kyle even, you know, trusted me to be in the space to do that with her. And, you know, I feel like, you know, Misty has really, you know, she's done so much for Black girls, and so I think it was just really, I felt really grateful.
Yeah, that was a privileged setting, but he wouldn't have welcomed you in if he didn't think you were capable of bringing what you have to the table. So that's compliments to you and compliments to him, to having the wisdom and the discernment to be like, you know what, I'm gonna bring her in and have her have this experience and journey for them, because not everybody gets a chance to work with her, you know, and you happen to be, you know, have that opportunity at such a point where she was just, you know, she was out there. And so I think that is like so cool. You know, from moving with Misty, you've worked with a lot of other people. And let me ask you this. What has been one of the key things that you keep with you when you're working with different dancers? Because you choreograph, you choreograph. You know, what is it that, like, I like what you said, you had, because the way she was trained, you had to and that takes some wisdom and discernment. Like, okay, the body, her body moves a certain way, your body moves a certain way, and you know that's even that's like, oh, because as a person who just dancing, that's not a professional dancer, doesn't think that way. But we think, oh, wait a minute, yeah, you're right. That's you had to understand where she's coming from versus where you're coming from, and somehow pull it together. Is that your method for everybody when you're working with them in terms of if they happen to be in modern or ballet or whatever? Is that how you approach most dancers when you're training them or when you're working with them?
Yeah. So when I'm choreographing my own work, I have the opportunity to pick, the people who I feel like I see something inside of them and that I connect to, their movement, just who they are as a person. So I get to pick them. So whatever draws me to them, I allow that to also be something that carries the space. So and I think that's part of being a choreographer or just leading a room, is that you have to leave room for the other artist's voice.
Right.
And if I just fully and just like me do exactly what I'm doing, it's gonna be really hard to see the humanness of each person. It's gonna be really hard to see them in their best light, because I just feel and so there is a collaborative aspect. Now, I am a choreographer who very much choreographs most of my movement, if not all. But I'm collaborative in the way that is, I listen to the artist I'm working with, and I hear them out because I'm not in their body. Like I'm not performing it. So there's things that I can't see that they see. That just, it's super humbling as well to just like, yes, I'm the choreographer, but I'm not in your body and I'm not doing this piece. You guys are, so give me information as well. What does it feel like to do this? What does it feel like to have to run that way? And what emotions are coming up when you interact with this person? What story is it that happens? Does this movement feel natural to connect to this movement with you, or would you rather go a little bit of a different direction? If it feels a little bit more comfortable for you to move this direction instead, let's go that way instead. And so that's the collaborative aspect for me.
And because dance is an expression, and when I look at dance, it's very lyrical to me. How the body, like you said, how the body moves, and especially modern dance. I mean, it's very expressive to me. And I like the elements because the body goes in different directions, and the contouring of the body and rolling on the floor, just so much. But all that means something. You can tell a story. I mean, I guess with any dance you can tell a story, but it's so expressive, And so the next thing I wanted to ask is, who are some of the dancers or projects you would, as far as dancers, who else would you like to work with that's out there?
Ooh, question. The first that popped in my head was Camille Brown.
Camille Brown, okay.
She's just incredible. She's incredibly talented, and there's something I resonate deeply with her movement. Even just watching, I can feel a very specific way. Like I feel it in my womb. I feel it in my gut. So she's someone I really, really my eyes are pretty now. I will.
Oh, I mean, you kind of going in and out. Can you speak up a little? Because you kind of going in and out.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So Camille Brown, I would say, is my top choice for now.
Your top choice.
Yeah.
Would you? Well, before I ask my next question, let me ask you this, because I used some of your footage and pictures, and I looking at them like, what was the prophet about? Were you the prophet? Were you playing the prophet?
Prophet, yes. That was. We're going to start working with Marjani in like a week or so. I'm going to start working with Johnny and Everett again for Prophet. We're going to Chicago in a few weeks actually for that. But yeah, I'm really excited. But Prophet it's an incredible story. You know, this artist, he was MC Everett. Story of being an MC and growing up, and his life story, and how it, you know, it really, how being an MC sort of guided his life. And it, myself and Marjani, we are these somewhat entities or spirit throughout this telling of this story. And I really hope that everybody can see this work. The story is absolutely incredible. And
I'm from Chicago.
Come. Oh, I hope you can come. That'd be really amazing.
Well, who knows? Maybe I'll be there next month. We'll see.
But you know, it's just his story is one of those stories I like movie. You know, it's so hard to explain, and I guess I feel really Marjani and Everett because
the visuals are dope. When I saw, I was like, ooh. Yeah. I love that look. I was like, oh, this is fresh. And you had your move. I was like, look at her. I was like, oh yeah, it looks. It's telling a story. Just the look of you in the hat and the other young lady, and then when your movement, and I was like, oh, this looks so fresh. That and the other one that I had seen is More. It's just you. Yeah, that looks good too. Yeah. Oh, and you crack.
I'm working with that artist right now as well. At the very moment, actually, I have rehearsal with her. But yeah, More was done during the pandemic, actually.
Wow. Yeah. That's very good. That's beautiful. You've been featured in Time magazine. I'm sorry. New York Times. You've been featured in New York Times. The clip of you, it was like you're soaring through the air. I love seeing dancers, the height when they jump. It's something about that, because I'm like, wow, they can leap, they can fly. So, what was that? What was that picture? Where do you remember what that photo was taken from?
I do. Right. I do remember it was a piece called Drive and choreographed by Kyle. And it was one, a really fun choreographed, and that was a solo that I had in that piece. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Your background is extensive. I mean, you've been featured in New York Times. I know you've been on the cover of Dance magazine. Was that with A.I.M?
Yes, it was.
That was with A.I.M. I also know you were featured in a Calvin Klein commercial.
Yeah.
I said, look at her in her yellow. She looks so cute with all that hair. You know, I'm a fan of natural hair. I said, look at her.
Yeah.
And you know, and I have to go watch this. You're in what's her name? Haley's music video, Angel.
Yeah.
I have to go.
I was a choreographic assistant and a dancer in that video.
Nice credits. Let me ask you this: would you ever be interested in choreographing for the Oscars or for the Grammys or the BET Awards?
Yes, that is in there are multiple artists I feel like I could choreograph for sure. I you know, I'm slowly getting into that arena, and I think that, you know, I'm not necessarily a commercial dancer. Commercial dancing doesn't resonate with me, but I do feel like there are certain artists that I could definitely utilize contemporary movement for a lot of their work.
So, like someone like Solange, because she's not
totally very much.
Yeah,
you know, she's one of those artists that, you know, she's sort of vast and it's just not commercial like that. And so,
right,
you know, yeah,
she's very her artistry. I like Solange.
Yeah.
I like both of them, of course. But I like what I like about Solange is exactly what you're saying. You know, she's taking her artistry in a different, you know, like a fine art. She went into the fine art, I guess, if that's the word that I could use.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool. She defined her own. You know, they're both extremely talented and gifted. But she went a different avenue, and I love what she's doing. So yeah, I could see you working with her easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Hello, Solange knows. Look up my girl Marcella Lewis.
Yeah.
Gotta put it out there. Would you yeah, being able to choreograph, I think, but if it came along had the opportunity to choreograph for the Oscars or the Grammys, you would probably do it, right? Yeah, of course.
It's because it's not necessarily about if the art is or if the event is something that I feel called to, I will absolutely do. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's things. There's certain artists that perform, they have music that I don't really connect to, that I'm really grateful to have strong discernment and very okay with saying no, regardless of how much exposure money I get.
Right.
That's really what I mean. If something feels off, I have to do it. But
right.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself ever starting your own dance company?
I do. It feels a bit like a soft background type of thought at the moment, because there's so many other things I want to do
before you go, right?
So it's
before you take on that responsibility.
Yeah. Floating around, and when it comes about, it'll come about. And I think if I was to do it, it would just how I would set it up very different than the company. Like it would just be I would have a different approach to it. Yeah.
Right. So now I know you working with Cal, you had a chance to work with Alvin Ailey and that whole, I mean, wow, working for Alvin Ailey, that should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you think that you will, well, let me ask you this. What are some good dance schools that you could recommend in LA, New York? Well, we know Lula Washington. What other dance schools would you recommend?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, oh, I guess
I guess I guess it probably the thing probably would be is to if a person decides to get into a university is to see if they have a good dance program. Probably that would be the thing after, you know, leaving high school if they want to pursue dance.
Yeah, I know there, you know, when I think about the school I applied for, specifically college, but for college dance, Purchase Conservatory, I think Purchase is incredible. You feel like you have to be a specific person, but Purchase is incredible. Boston, North Carolina Arts, Cal Arts, U Arts.
Just they would have to do their researches. Are there any well-known instructors that that are out there that if somebody's pursuing a dance career that they could train under? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, specifically in LA, Aaron McDonald, a very well instructor, has really cultivated a lot of artists that are now teachers. He taught Debbie Allen, she taught by herself. Here's Karen McDonald, and of course, you know, Tamika Washington, you know. So they're incredible instructors, you know, and these are people that I feel like are really,
right.
Yeah,
that would be good. Yeah. Nice. Now, as a dancer and pursuing a career dance, and what recommendation would you give to, because, you know, how do you sustain yourself financially being a dancer? That's another thing, you know, is it good that, you know, they have a hobby that where they can, you know, because I know you do design, you have your own jewelry line as well. So, you know, what are some of the ways you know, to make a sustainable career to support your artistry? Because, you know, being an artist, and I know from acting, writing, you have to come up with, you know, you have to come up with other ways to support your craft and while you pursue it. Do you have any advice for somebody who's, you know, pursuing, you know, and working in the dance world?
Yeah, I would say that I do feel like side hustles are, I feel like, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but it's sometimes it's like you're going in and out. Sometimes it's going. For anybody that's listening, can you hear? I see there's a person that's on. Can you hear Marcella? Hi.
Okay.
I can hear you. If you can hear it, put a 1 in the chat. I can hear you. Okay. But you kind of you
try to talk louder. But shoot, what was the question?
about sustaining oneself when they're pursuing dance, or when they're, because just like I guess what comes with acting, you may get a gig and then you don't know when the next gig comes unless you book a series, right? So it's.
So I would say I feel like having side gigs, things like that are great. I feel like as long as you have flexibility, gig, and it's also a side gig that you can, and I think sometimes there are people get side and they can't.
Yeah,
that's something you should avoid, because you're basically just also for money, so you don't understand it. But I think mess with your spirit. I think it affects a lot. So
yes,
as much as you can, if you're gonna find a side thing, try to find something like, and
right,
and also try to find something that is at close to the thing. Meaning, I'm gonna find a side. I wouldn't try to find a side gig that had nothing to do with dance or art.
right,
Because I want to be
right.
so at least be a work front desk, or
Right.
things like that.
Be in the atmosphere, because you want to be in the atmosphere, because it's like until that big break that you're looking for, at least try to get in some kind of way, because it's encouraging, it's inspiring. I know that from working years in a law firm, but yeah, I was still producing plays on the side.
Yeah.
Because I knew, this ain't my life. But I do understand, because you have to take care of yourself. You have to, until that happens. I mean, I've talked to actors, producers, directors, and everyone is still, some people are still working their regular job. Some people are able to, rarely does a person able to leave their quote unquote day job and go straight into what they want. You got to have a cushion to do that, or somebody backing you. So, but even, I say, even when you are, if you be a part-time or full-time, never give up your goals, your dreams, because it's a lot of people spend the majority of your life working. You might as well work doing what you love. That's how I do that, so I commend, people like yourself. You knew what you wanted young as a child, and you went in that direction, and you stayed in that direction. And so that's all praises to the Most High for your mom being who she is, and who she was at that time, and who she is till that day, and instilling that, and that just, it transferred over to you, and then you kept going. So that's a blessing. I never would have thought. I figured at some point maybe I'll see you later in life, but I didn't know I would be interviewing you, because at the time I was in a different place. And it's just funny how life works out. It's so funny how things work out. If someone wants to ask, I'm gonna just put this out there, because I know sometimes the clock, Instagram, if you've been on for like an hour, they cut you off, then you have to come back in. So if that happens, between now and 1 o'clock, I'll come back in. That is if we haven't wrapped up. But I want to give the opportunity to, if someone has a question for Marcella, please feel free. You're more than welcome. I'll bring you in if you have a question for her. If you don't want to talk to her directly, you can just put it in the comment and I'll ask for you. So you're currently working on a piece at the moment. You said with a young lady. And so because you're in Los Angeles now, so what's the next destination, or where you're going to be performing? Is it the next performance is going to be in Chicago next, or is it?
Yeah.
Are you going to be performing?
Okay. We'll be in Chicago. I most likely will be performing May 2nd through and the most likely as I have a history, but we're moving through it, and hopefully everything. But yes, May.
So you're going to be performing. You said May 2nd through the 7th.
May 17th. Out, but it'll be LA. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, and then I have for that in Chicago.
Oh, okay. So, definitely when you're okay. So definitely when you're in LA, I'm gonna try to make that. I'll get the information from you later or from your mom.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I'm choreographing a quartet on 4 practical of ritual. I'm premiering it this year or beginning of, so it's in the process to be on the lookout for.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I so appreciate you coming on into the room and sharing your journey, and your experience, your history. You're a beautiful, young, gifted, talented young lady. I see your mom all in you. She did well. And you're doing well. And I look forward to hearing more about your performances. And you're more than welcome. I would love to, if time permits, because I know you're busy. You're a jet setter back in here and there. Perform. Welcome you back if you ever have any shows that are coming up that you want to talk about or anything like that, or if you want to bring your group, because I know you choreographing for whoever you're working with. You all are more than welcome to come back, and love to have you. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to enter the room to listen to our special guest, Miss Marcella Lewis. You can follow her. They can follow you on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is MARCEL_.
Okay. And do you have a website? What's your website for your jewelry line?
For my jewelry line, physical creation.
Okay. Maybe next time we can come bring you to talk about your jewelry as well. All right then. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in today to listen to the fabulous, very talented, gifted Miss Marcella Lewis. Please follow her on Instagram. Follow her page. She's a dope choreographer, performer, movement artist. That's a new one that I learned when I was like, movement artist.
Yeah.
At your leisure, and until next time, we will be seeing you later. Have a wonderful, blessed, fabulous day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.